Tulsa County is, obviously an urban area, and one of the things that I noticed that I thought would be very beneficial, at least for prosecution of crimes, it seemed to make sense, I think, to people on the outside, but I felt that going more towards a specialization type unit of prosecution would be beneficial for the community. And what I mean by that is if we could slot people into particular crimes. So I created specialty units for homicide, for child abuse, for sex crimes, and for robbery. And then obviously we also have a domestic violence prosecutor, and we have some gang prosecutors. So the principle or the idea is let people build up uh, their skills in a particular area, and that improves, at least what I see, is the communication between my office and law enforcement. And it's also a benefit to my victims and my witnesses that we don't have kind of a rotation of prosecutors handling multiple type cases. There's always something to be said about being more rounded and handling a lot of variety of cases, but in my mind, I think prosecutors do the best job for the public when they can get into an area that they like. So for us working with Family Safety Center, I think it's a smart fit to have somebody who is uniquely qualified to handle domestic violence cases, has a real desire to handle those kind of things. And obviously if we have sex crime type cases, a lot of times there may be a component of a domestic relationship. So that partnership is important. I think it improves lines of communication. If we have issues, you're not searching for multiple prosecutors to try and fix the problem. You're getting one person to go to and hopefully build on the benefits that we learn and learn to improve upon any mistakes that we make along the way. It seems to be a model that works fairly well in other jurisdictions, and since Tulsa is becoming I would say a much more metropolitan area. There are many larger jurisdictions that are have adopted this type of model for efficiency purposes, and that's what we're doing in Tulsa County. It's an experiment, but I don't think I have any plans on looking back. I want to move forward. At least in my mind, the goal ultimately ought to be identifying who the worst of the worst offenders are, and if you can identify who those individuals are, what your target is to remove them from society, and the only way you can do that is have somebody that really understands that dynamic. And a prosecutor who is assigned to handling domestic violence cases exclusively is going to be able to push hard to advance those cases towards trial. It just makes sense to me when you're handling a wide variety of cases. Sometimes I think the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, in this instance, a prosecutor like Jenny Day, who's our domestic violence prosecutor, she already knows what squeaky wheel needs to get moving. It's a domestic violence case, or it's a case that has a domestic violence component. So she's going to be pushing her cases up to the forefront in our courtrooms. Ultimately, what is a benefit is when you're on a trial docket and you're having a case trying to get up in front of a jury. Sometimes it's just seeing the whites of an eyes of the jury for an offender to realize maybe I don't want to take my chances with the jury, and maybe it's time to plead guilty and take my luck with the judge. But at least in my experience, whether it's a child abuse case or a robbery case or a homicide case, if your sole focus is on that type of crime, you're going to do the best job you can to get that crime postured up for trial. You're going to have more time to talk with your witnesses. You're going to be better prepared on that particular case, so that when you do get up in front of a judge and it's time to decide whether you're going to go to jury trial or not, you're going to know which cases are the strong ones and which ones aren't. And I've seen that bear fruit in the last couple months. I know we just started this program basically when I got into office. Where I really see it taking hold is in about 6 months. We have a lot of residual stuff from the past. We filed 6,000 felonies last year. That doesn't mean all 6,000 get resolved within the calendar year, and we have new cases that are starting this year. So as cases were set for trial last year, I've had to do a lot of transitioning of work. Some of these prosecutors are picking up caseloads that were handled by other prosecutors, and they have to get familiarized with it. But I think hopefully by the middle of the summer, people will be handling cases that were unique to them and that they had started from beginning and will take to the end, and they'll be well vested in the outcomes of those cases. It's human nature, I think. You take on somebody else's responsibility for that they handled in the past. It's hard to really get focused on it. I encourage my prosecutors, just because somebody else may have handled it in the past doesn't mean it's any less important. But my people will always work hard. But I think once they're involved with the cases that they have developed from the beginning, obviously they're going to be more familiar with the facts, and they're going to know the strengths and weaknesses. And I want them to be able to just plow forward and make sure they make the best or obtain the best disposition for a particular case based on the facts. And so within my office, I have a staff of advocates who will help the prosecutors, help these victims navigate the system. And from that, oftentimes, if we have a domestic violence type case or sexual assault case, and there are issues that might be a little bit more difficult than our resources might be able to handle, it's great to have something like Family Safety Center available to us, that we can avail their facility. And certainly I've been on the most recent tour, and anybody who has yet to have the opportunity to do that, you need to take that tour, because it's an exciting time for Tulsa. And some of what that center is able to provide for our citizens are tremendous. What I like the most about it is its ease of access for me. We're no longer having to drive a distance. We can just walk across the block, so to speak. And there have been a time or two that my prosecutor, Jenny Prohl, has been able to actually keep witnesses over at the Family Safety Center pending coming into court. And that's a comfort to those victims. When you're talking about coming to court and having to testify, you may have that opportunity, as unfortunate as may be, to encounter a defendant or family members of the defendant in the same building. So we're always very cautious and mindful of trying to protect our witnesses and our victims from having those inadvertent contacts. It's going to happen just because of the court process. They're going to have to be in a courtroom, and every defendant has a right to face their accuser. But we want to make that contact as minimal as possible. So what we get from a Family Safety Center is a real bonus to us, and we're very appreciative of that. And then I have advocates who are specifically trained and specifically hired to handle domestic violence cases. So we've got Lola Scott Theory. Lola is such a tremendous resource for my office. She's a passionate advocate on domestic violence cases. She truly understands the dynamics of victims and what their mindsets are, and she also truly understands kind of the defendant's cycle of violence dynamic. And so what Lola brings to the table is a wealth of experience. She oftentimes, I've seen her train my prosecutors to become better prosecutors and get them better wrapped around the issues. Lola also, believe it or not, is well respected among the circles of those folks who deal with domestic violence issues. Once they meet her and once they learn that she's in the case, she's kind of almost a game changer for us. So it's nice for her to be able to work in-house, and obviously at the Family Safety Center we also have, they've made a space available for my prosecutor and for our advocates to be over there from time to time to help staff cases. And as I see the days, the months, the years move forward in my office, I just want to build a team that's going to be strong and has a cooperative relationship with people like the Family Safety Center. To kind of the government office feel to it, it's open, it's warm. It's designed from an efficiency standpoint to assist victims through their process. It makes accommodations for children. It makes accommodations for various agencies that might need to be able to staff cases, and it's such a huge improvement for not only the people who work there, but just for our community. I have often said when I was out campaigning that this is a time for Tulsa to shine. I really think that we are uniquely positioned to perhaps teach the rest of the country how to do this important work. I think the level of respect for women, I'm not talking about Tulsa or Oklahoma. I think countrywide, we really need to work hard on improving how we treat women and restore them to the respect that they deserve. And I think once we get to that recognition that women can realize the hopes and the dreams that they all want, I don't care what that is, if it's working and get a degree and advancement, that's great. If it's stay at home and be a mother, that's great. But I want women to be able to realize their dreams, and as soon as the men start figuring that out, and we start re-educating them on that, long term, I think what we'll see is a restoration of some of the things that our culture and our communities are suffering from. We're broken, and we need to start fixing it, and I really think it begins with restoring the dignity to women that they deserve.